Ethiopian Airlines crash.
Literally every community that she went to, like, people would gather around her and she would give back so much.
More than 250 people came out in the rain at just one of several vigils planned across Canada and around the world for the 24-year-old. Plus,
so I was getting frustrated when I started my initial apartment search.
having trouble scoring a rental? Try taking a page from Toronto's self-professed best tenant ever. And Scarborough born and raised, you know her as Superwoman, Lily Singh is getting a U.S. late-night talk show. Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. A vigil tonight for Danielle Moore, one of the 18 Canadians who lost their lives in Sunday's Ethiopian Airlines crash. The 24-year-old woman from Toronto was en route to a UN conference in Nairobi. Our Natalie Nanowski was at Inukshuk Park near Lakeshore and Strawn as people gathered there to remember her.
Friends started coming right after work.
She was just always an inspiration for me and one of the reasons why I want to get more involved in my community and kind of take action.
A few hours later, hundreds huddled in the cold, those whose lives she touched alongside complete strangers, dropping off white and yellow flowers.
The white signifies grief and the yellow signifies friendship. Danielle was an incredible friend and such a caring person. Anyone who met her would tell you that. So yeah, the yellow especially is a big thing.
That pile grew and grew, at points overwhelming Danielle's mother. The 24-year-old woman was a champion of social and environmental causes. Her desire to help took her all over the world. That Boeing 737 she boarded on Sunday was supposed to take her to a UN conference in Nairobi.
In my head, for these past few days, it kept flying around thinking with that 6 minute, would they holding hands together and then just snap and that's about it?
In the last couple of days, I've just sort of been at a loss, not really knowing what to do. And we were talking about it and it's like, Danielle would have been the perfect person to approach, to like, how do we deal with this?
The grief was shared globally. Vigils for Danielle were held by those who knew her at 24 locations, from Vancouver to Sydney to Zambia. In Toronto, they lit candles, shared memories, and sang songs.
There will be an answer, let it be. Let it be, let it be.
A strong, independent leader that took no BS from anyone. And she lived her own life, always looking out for the little guy, always looking out for the environment.
Because Danielle was such a doer and fought so hard for the causes she believed in, her friends and family say that the best way to keep her memory alive is to advocate for the things she held so dear to her heart. Natalie Nanowski, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, the decision to ground Boeing 737 MAX planes in Canada in the wake of Sunday's crash is taking a toll on airlines and air travelers across the country. Taking them out of service means rebooking as many as 13,000 travelers on Canadian Airlines each day. There were 80 arrivals and departures canceled at Pearson today. For tomorrow, that number already sits at 67. Loretta Redekop has details on how long all that rebooking could take.
I'm just going to see what's available.
Travel agents say they've been overloaded this week. Here, the call volume has almost doubled. First, it was people wanting to know whether they were scheduled on a Boeing 737 MAX 8. Now it's rebooking.
It is March break. Usually it's a quiet time for us because a lot of our travelers are already on vacation in destination. So this has definitely been a lot busier.
At the airport, it's mostly business as usual. But some people already on March break are trying to sort through cancellations and get back before school starts. Like this teacher in Florida told she could fly back Monday.
It's impossible because I have to be in class on Monday. And so the best they could do was to get us out of Orlando, which is a 2.5-hour drive from here. So that's what I have to do.
In a statement, WestJet says it's canceled 11 flights today, affecting 1,200 passengers. 75% of them will be rebooked on other flights today, the rest tomorrow, and a few on Saturday. The company says it's working to reconfigure its schedule, which should be done on Monday. Air Canada says it has up to 12,000 passengers a day directly affected, with a domino effect across the system. Earlier, getting through on the phone was almost impossible.
We sincerely apologize that due to unforeseen circumstances, our call volume has temporarily exceeded our capacity to answer or place your call on hold.
The company says it's now set up a dedicated line for people who had been scheduled on a MAX 8 or 9 over the next 72 hours.
I would suggest giving airlines a grace period until the end of Friday, that's end of tomorrow. And starting Saturday, if there is still chaos, then that certainly will be the airline's problem. From that point on, my position is that airlines should be paying passengers compensation for hotels, meals.
Meanwhile, the search for answers as to what caused the horrific crash is one step closer. The 2 flight data recorders arrived in France, but one of them is damaged, and investigators say it could take days or even weeks to retrieve information from it. Lorenda Redicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
2 men were arrested last night in Montreal for what police say was a targeted killing of a Hells Angels member earlier this week in Mississauga. A Canada-wide warrant is now out for a 3rd suspect wanted for first-degree murder.
The murder occurred in broad daylight outside a gym located on a busy strip mall at Dundas Street close to Cawthra Road, and is an example of the reckless disregard for public safety that criminals have.
The 32-year-old victim was gunned down in a boxing gym parking lot. Police say he was a well-known member of the Hells Angels Niagara chapter. This was a targeted hit, and investigators say all 3 suspects are believed to be associated with organized crime. The 3rd suspect is also from Quebec. A warrant is out for 38-year-old Joseph Pallotta. Police say he is considered armed and dangerous. Nick's here with his first look at the weather, and we're dealing with a lot of wet weather tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. It's all part of a system that's been pushing through the region over the last 12 hours or so, and we've seen scattered on and off showers throughout the day leading this system, but it's this cold front that's bringing the rain tonight, and with it scattered thunderstorms as well. It is going to move through tonight though, and cooler weather on the way. These lines that you see as they're tight or packed, they indicate stronger winds. So some pretty gusty winds over the next couple of days, and rain showers again heading into tomorrow, although not as much as what we've seen through today. So tonight, rain showers clearing though through the overnight, 7 degrees. Then by the afternoon, 5 degrees continues to fall. Gusty winds out of the southwest, and a bit of a cool down toward the weekend. Full details coming up.
Okay, thanks, Nick. Something to watch for tomorrow morning, the last day of the March break. Education Minister Lisa Thompson will give an update on a range of issues, from class sizes to sex ed to teacher hiring. The ministry told school boards earlier this month to defer filling vacancies for retirements and other leaves until tomorrow's update. Teacher unions say they haven't been given any details, but expect to see cuts. Well, the City of Toronto is looking at a somewhat counterintuitive way to deal with traffic congestion around Yorkdale Mall. If you have ever tried looking for parking there, you know how congested those lots can get. Well, now the city is looking at getting rid of that surface parking. Over the next 20 years, those lots are being targeted for redevelopment. Cars would go underground, with offices, residential buildings, maybe even a hotel being built on top of them, not to mention more stores. Now, local residents who say it's already difficult to drive in this area are skeptical.
From a resident's point of view, it's close to irrational, the number of units they want to put right beside where we live.
Now, part of the review would involve studying transit and ways to improve infrastructure for drivers, like improving ways of getting on and off of Dufferin, as well as the 401. In addition, they'll look at adding public spaces and parks to make the area more walkable for those who end up living there.
I'm Farah Morali in the Junction. Just how hard is it to find an affordable, decent place to rent in this city? Just ask the best tenant ever. We sit down with him coming up.
so happy for it. I want to take a photo. Now we're in the embassy family. Let's do a cheesy family photo. There we go.
Take in the moment. Scarborough's own Lily Singh, a.k.a. Superwoman, has landed her own late-night talk show gig on NBC. A Little Late with Lily Singh will air at 1:35 in the morning beginning in September. Singh will be the only woman to host a daily late-night talk show on a major U.S. broadcast network. Her half-hour program will include in-studio interviews and her brand of pre-taped comedy sketches. Singh says it is a dream come true. Congratulations, huge news for her. Well, these are challenging times for anyone looking for an apartment in this province. Last year, Ontario's vacancy rate hit a record low 1.8%. Toronto came in even lower at 1.1%. The rental market is so competitive, it has some people taking unusual measures to find a place they can afford. Farah Morali brings us a story of one man's campaign to get landlords to come to him by branding himself as the best tenant ever.
Hi, my name's Ari Zilnik, and I'm the best tenant ever.
So you've actually taken this to the next level. You've got a website, you've got posters, you're calling yourself the best tenant ever. What made you want to do that?
So I was getting frustrated when I started my initial apartment search. I started about 3 weeks ago, and I was doing the normal, search Kijiji, search Craigslist, search some of the other classified ads, and starting to look for places. And I had this sort of big dream about what it was that I was looking for, and I just couldn't find anything available on the market.
So we're here in the Junction right now. This is one of the neighborhoods that you're looking to find a place.
Totally.
How has the search been so far looking in this neighborhood?
These days, unfortunately, it's kind of pick one. So you can either find your ideal neighborhood, but it's expensive and it's small, or you can find a huge place, but it's not where you want and it's still expensive, or you can find a place that's affordable, but it's in the middle of nowhere and still tiny, or maybe not ideal to what you want. So hopefully I kind of find that Goldilocks situation where it is the right price in the right place in the right size. So a couple of days ago, I actually added tracking to see how many people are actually coming on the site, and I've got a couple hundred hits now, which is great. And of those hits, I've received I'd say about close to 10 emails of people saying, hey, I have an apartment.
But no hits so far, no successes.
There are a couple of good prospects as a result of the website, but nothing signed quite yet. I design software, so I'm a user experience designer. I design apps. That's what I do on a day-to-day basis. And so moving back to Toronto about 3-4 months ago, I definitely didn't anticipate the sort of lack of stock, for lack of a better part, or sort of lack of inventory when it comes to units. In New York, it wasn't uncommon for me to start an apartment search, in 1 or 2 days and basically find a place, lock it down, and have the keys, within the week. Here, it's been a couple of weeks now, and I just haven't been able to find anything viable. So usually I post right here.
So in case anyone's watching who might be looking for a tenant, give us your elevator pitch for why you are the best tenant ever.
I think I'm the best tenant ever because I have great credit, I have great references, I'm a good, decent guy, I'm pretty quiet, I have a steady job with a steady income, and I just think that I'm a nice person to be around. So hopefully all those things combined make me the best tenant ever, and hopefully you agree.
You forgot the beard.
And I have a great beard, in my opinion.
Can't forget the beard. That story from Farah Morali. Well, dog owners, keep an eye on where your furry friend is walking, especially near fishing spots around Lake Ontario. The warning comes after a dog gobbled up a fish hook last week. Now, her owners are now calling on those fishing along the shoreline to clean up after themselves before a dog gets seriously hurt. Ali Chasson has more.
Go to the trail so often, so everyone who goes there runs into Hannah, and they all know who she is. And she just loves to play. She loves to give people kisses.
Last week's walk started like any other.
We parked the van. She was outside the vehicle with my husband. He had her on a leash, and I was trying to get my son's snowsuit on so we could go for a walk. And so we were out of the vehicle for maybe a couple of minutes, and he looked down and realized she had all this fishing wire hanging out of her mouth. We tried pulling it, but it was stuck. So we didn't know at that point that there was a hook at the end of it, but it was stuck, so we didn't want to do any damage. So we got her back in the vehicle. I held on to the end of it, and then we went straight to the animal hospital.
$3,500 later.
it's so tiny. That would be so hard to see.
And the wire itself can do damage if it gets wrapped around the intestines or anything else in the stomach.
So we came to the parking lot where it happened, and there's a fish line receptacle right here. And these things were installed because this had been happening too often.
And the sad thing is only very few people who are not good.
I imagine if it happens here, it's got to happen all over Ontario on the shorelines. Do you think more municipalities should include receptacles like these?
Oh, absolutely. And they're so simple.
Just PVC pipe and a zip tie flap. So far, you only find them in Clarington.
We got 6. And we got them all in very strategic places, you know, where the fishing areas are, where the fishermen are standing.
Leo's group of volunteers hopes they catch on and that anglers do the responsible thing and not litter so another critter doesn't get hurt. And so does Sabrina Burns.
And it has healed quite nicely. She's doing very, very well. Like I said, she had her appointment on Tuesday and a clean bill of health, so she's recovering quite nicely. I know there is very responsible people out there. It's just unfortunate that there are some who aren't, right? So my goal for this is just to create awareness so it doesn't happen again.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Clarington.
Kind of regretting the game now that now that I see who's on the ice.
Athletes on the ice.
Yeah, but whatever, we're just gonna have a good time.
Our country's top music awards will be handed out this weekend, but before we get to see Canada's top musical talent, Canada's favorite game will make an appearance. We'll bring you to the rink after the break.
Weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Canada's top music awards will be handed out this weekend. For the first time, London, Ontario will host the Junos. But before we get to see stars like Sarah McLachlan or Hall of Fame inductee Corey Hart, the fun gets underway with a few rock versus jock events and Canada's undisputed favorite game. Tashana Reed has more.
The Juno Cup is celebrating its 16th year on the ice, and it's where Canadian musicians face off with hockey players. Now, this is just the practice in anticipation for tomorrow's big game, but that is when the real competition begins. And here is where fans in London, Ontario will be able to see some of their favorite NHL stars as well as players from the Canadian Women's Hockey League face off with some of Canadian music's biggest names. And this charity event is all for a good cause. It's to raise money for Music Counts, a Canadian charity that brings instruments into Canadian schools. Now, I had a chance to speak with the founder of the Juno Cup, Jim Cuddy, and we were talking about, of course, gearing up for the big match, but here's what he had to tell us about what he's expecting out of tomorrow's game.
This is an hour of humiliation. No. I have those, they have always claimed, the NHLers have always claimed that if they didn't want us to touch the puck, we would not touch the puck the entire game. So, I mean, there's a difference. We're quarter horses. They're thoroughbreds.
For Attawapiskat singer Adrian Sutherland, he's lacing up for his 3rd year here at the Juno Cup, and he says it's because it's for a good cause.
It's really fun to get out and watch. Even the ex-pro NHL guys come out and sing a few songs or two, and it's just great all around, real fun.
And for Jenna and Stuart Walker, the siblings that make up the country duo, the Reclaws, it's their 1st year at the Junos, and they're also up for Best Country Album, their 1st nomination. We had a chance to speak with them about what they're looking forward to this weekend. Here's what they told us.
This is crazy. This whole entire weekend is something we've been dreaming of our whole lives, so it's pretty awesome.
Stuart, how does it feel?
It's a very Canadian weekend for us. We get to play a show tomorrow night outside of Budweiser Gardens. We're nominated. We get to perform on the show, and we get to play a hockey game with some legends out here.
Yeah.
So it's amazing for us.
And the Juno Cup is just one of many events that will be happening in London, Ontario this weekend. Tashana Reid, CBC News, London.
And you can watch the Juno Awards on CBC television this Sunday. CBC will have a full day of Juno programming. The awards show itself begins at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, of course, from London. Here in Toronto, it was the return of LeBron James, his first time with the Lakers, meeting with the Raptors. Kyle Lowry out with an injury, Serge Ibaka serving suspension, but the Raptors looking good. Kawhi Leonard knocking down the 3 here, part of an 11-0 run. King James, though, would come alive in the second. Norm Powell doesn't try too hard as LeBron storms in and hammers down the two-hander. Kawhi and LeBron kept battling in the third. Kawhi with a nice 3 here. LeBron and the Lakers pulling within 6 going into the fourth, but Toronto holds on, rebounding from a tough loss in Cleveland to win 111-98. And Milos Raonic in the quarterfinals at Indian Wells today, facing Serbia's Miramor Kekmanovic. It takes him just 29 minutes to win the opening set. He finishes with a monster ace. Kekmanovic can only watch. A little bit tougher going in the second, but he breaks through the tie, ending with another ace to win in straight sets, 6-3, 6-4. Raonic advancing to the semifinals. Nick Serkovich is back with his extended forecast. I was going into work. I brought an umbrella with me. It felt kind of weird, but I think I'm glad I'm going to have it on the way home tonight.
Yeah, it's a good thing you brought it with you, Mike. As I mentioned off the top, there's a cold front that's moving through the city, and with it, some convective weather, so some potentially heavy downpours in some areas across the GTA. This, however, is clearing out tonight. We'll see that line of showers move through. Then tomorrow morning, generally just cloudy conditions here. However, in the afternoon, expect to see more in the way of scattered showers across the region. So I take the umbrella with you again tomorrow. You see the blue here, though. In higher elevations, we'll start to see some wet flurries, and that's the stories we head in through Saturday, especially north of the city, the risk for a few flurries. But even in the city of Toronto by Saturday, chance of seeing a few flurries here and there. By Sunday, though, things clear out and we're looking at sunshine, albeit cooler temperatures on the way over the next couple of days. In terms of the rainfall forecast, total amounts showing a little bit less than what we were expecting yesterday, but again, I would take these with a grain of salt because these don't include locally heavy downpours. So with that, a general 10 millimeters of rain. However, some areas expecting to see more under heavier downpours. Winds out of the south are going to shift to the southwest tomorrow, about 30 to 50 kilometers per hour, and those stronger winds are going to last all the way through Friday, pretty much into Saturday when they begin to peter out, and also we get the sunshine back as well at that point. Forecast for tonight down in southwestern Ontario, winds about 30 to 50 kilometers per hour already out of the southwest. Temperature 6 degrees and the slight chance of seeing a few showers through the overnight. Tomorrow, a few scattered showers and still looking at those southwesterly winds. For the GTA, 7 degrees through the overnight period. Scattered showers clearing by tomorrow. The risk of seeing a few scattered showers again, especially through the later afternoon hours. So that 7 falls through the day. Saturday, 2 degrees and a few flurries. A pair of ones for Sunday and Monday. Tuesday, 3. We get a stretch of sunshine for a few days.
I've been missing seeing the sunshine. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
Thanks a lot, Nick. Toronto Raptors have taken their partnership with Canadian rapper Drake to another level. The team is renaming its practice facility after the Grammy Award winner's record label and brand, October's very own. The Raptors unveiling the new name this morning, announcing that the BioSteel Center will now be called the OVO Athletic Center. Drake has served as global ambassador for the Raptors since 2013, and it was OVO night at the game tonight. Before we go, another big Junos-themed episode of Q tomorrow. It was actually taped this evening in front of a live audience at the London Music Hall. Features performances by Bahamas and an interview with Academy Award-nominated author and screenwriter Emma Donoghue. You can listen to that tomorrow at 10 a.m. on CBC Radio 1. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Good night.